Adders. I wanted to put a video into today's assignment because I noticed yesterday there was a little bit of confusion still on how to cite multiple sources, answering those RACCE questions. And I had some people reach out to ask. So I thought today I would do another review on it because I know this is kind of a newer topic for us. So just as a quick review here, the R means restate the question. I've noticed that some people are just re-asking the question, but this first part needs to be a sentence where we reword the question into a statement. Then we have to actually answer the question and then cite. The reason I have the CC that I said earlier is because we want to cite both texts and then just explain it with a brief, like how does the text evidence that I put in support my answer up here. These are good to know as well for ways to cite the source. So you could say according to the text and then start your quote. For example, start your quote. According to the author, start your quote, so on like that. So these are examples too. If you want to, you could take a screenshot of this right now to help with different ways to start your quotes. So I have a couple of new passages here that I'm just going to read through. Can squirrels fly? And blind as a bat, not really. And then when I go here, I'm just going to look. This is my question that I'm trying to answer. How do animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs? So I know kind of what I'm listening for. So in the first, reading, I'll read that first. Can squirrels fly? Have you ever seen a squirrel fly from one high tree branch to another? If so, no, you don't need your eyesight checked. You saw a flying squirrel. Although they might better be called gliding squirrels, there are about 50 types of squirrels that have a special skin between their legs. This membrane allows them to glide for short distances. There are two different types of flying squirrels in the United States. Northern flying squirrels live mostly in the Northeast, along the West Coast, and in the western states of Idaho and Montana. The southern flying squirrel lives along the East Coast from Maine to Florida and as far west as Minnesota and Texas. When a flying squirrel wants to move from one tree to another, it jumps into the air and spreads out its legs. The membrane is then visible. The squirrel uses small movements to steer. Its tail works as a brake. A flying squirrel can glide for more than 150 feet. All right, so now let's go on to the next one. Blind as a bat? Not really. You may have heard the old saying, blind as a bat. However, bats actually can see as well as humans. In fact, their sensitive eyes see better in the dark than ours do. Researchers believe the saying got started hundreds of years ago. People noticed bats flying in a zigzag pattern and thought the animals couldn't see. We now know that bats fly this way for a reason. Bats are active at night. In order to find food in the dark, they make high-pitched sounds that echo back to them. These echoes give them information about the location, size, and shape of an insect. This process is called echolocation. So the next time you hear someone say, blind as a bat, you will know that's not really blind at all. Okay, so as a quick review on here now, the question is, how do animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs? So the first part is the part where we just restate the question. Again, we are not writing the question again, but we're rewriting it as a statement. So the question is, how do animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs? Let's restate it as animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs. Okay, so it's a sentence. It sounds just like the question, but it's not a question anymore. Now we just have to answer the question. Different animals use parts of their bodies or sounds to adapt, or I don't want to repeat that sound, that to adapt to their needs. Different animals use parts of their bodies or sounds to help them survive. So now I kind of changed it a little bit, so I'm not repeating that phrase to adapt to their needs too many times. So far I have animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs. Different animals use parts of their bodies or sounds to help them survive. So now here I want to cite my flying squirrel one. So I'm going to go back to this first slide. I'll say, according to the text, I'll use that one. So I want to look for how do squirrels adapt in some way to help them. So let's see. Right here, when a flying squirrel wants to move from one tree to another, it jumps into the air and spreads out its legs. So I'm going to say that. Go to my first citation. According to text number 1, remember I put a comma and I start my quotation marks. Let's see. When a flying squirrel wants to move from one tree to another. When a flying squirrel wants to move from one tree to another. Sorry, I'm going to have to jump back and forth here. It jumps into the air and spreads its legs. It jumps into the air and spreads its legs. Period and quotation mark. So I'm showing there that it's using part of its body and actually I might want to, let's see, the next part says the membrane is then visible. I'm going to add that part in there. It's okay to add more than one sentence. The membrane is then visible. There, I like that better because now I'm showing how it's using part of its body to help it adapt to its needs. Now it knows, and now it can get from one tree to another. So on this one I used according to text number 1. So on the next one I'm going to say, I'll say in article number 2, the author says. So let's look at article number 2 for an example of what this does right here. In order to find food in the dark, they make high-pitched sounds that echo back to them. I'm going to use that sentence to show how the noises that a bat makes helps them adapt to their surroundings. In the dark, they're able to find food. So, what did I say I was going to use? The author says. So, I'll say here, in text number 2, the author says, comma, quotation marks. In order to find food in the dark, here it says, they make high-pitched sounds that echo back to them. They make high-pitched sounds that echo back to them. Period, quotation marks. Now, one of the things that I was just thinking about as I typed that is up here I wrote in when a flying squirrel. So I know that I'm referring to flying squirrels here. Here it says, in order to find food in the dark, they make high-pitched sounds. So I'm using a pronoun here. The person reading this might not know who they is. So I'm going to replace the they with bats. But remember, I need to use these here, these brackets, to show that I replaced what the author actually said. I'm just replacing the word bats, or replacing the word they with bats. So here I showed different characteristics. I cited evidence from both texts, and now I just have to explain how those help answer this question. So my explanation could be as simple as both flying squirrels and bats have unique ways of adapting to their needs. All right, now let's go back and check. So, did I restate the question? Animals use unique characteristics to adapt to their needs. Answer. Different animals use parts of their bodies or sounds to help them survive. Here are my 2 citations. According to text number 1, when a flying squirrel wants to move from one tree to another, it jumps into the air and spreads its legs. The membrane is then visible. In text number 2, the author says, in order to find food in the dark, bats make high-pitched sounds that echo back to them. Now I just explain. Both flying squirrels and bats have unique ways of adapting to their needs. So there's all 5 parts for you. I think just my notice from when I'm checking out your guys' answers, this part seems to be a bit of a struggle, but try to make it as simple as possible. Try to take this question here and just form it into a question using almost exactly the same words. Then give yourself just a simple part of the answer, but you have to be kind of specific. You don't want to just say both articles talk about their adaptations or something. I was more specific. I said they use parts of their bodies or sounds to help them survive. Then I find a good citation from both that helps show this answer that I gave. And then this is kind of like our conclusion sentence we've worked on in writing paragraphs. We're just kind of wrapping it up here. How do these 2 citations explain or give an example of your answer? I just said both flying squirrels and bats have unique ways of adapting to their needs. So you're just kind of wrapping it up in that last sentence. So I hope that helps a little bit. I know this can be a little bit tricky. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out and send me a message in Canvas, and I'm happy to meet with you in WebEx to help you work through the next set of readings. Sorry. All right, have a great day.